Hey everybody, 10 years ago Dominion Night was created, and in 2 days from now it will be the 10th Dominion Night, which is crazy. And I thought it'd be fun to do a little trip down memory lane just to kind of show where Dominion Night has been and where it is now, and just kind of, yeah, just look at where all the cool things that have happened in Dominion Night over the years, and just kind of go through each year one by one. So hopefully this is fun for you, and I'll have some pictures and things like that while the video is going too, just to show some of the things that happened. In 2010, though, I had heard of scratch-off stickers for the first time. That I probably got some advertisement in the mail or something with them on there, and then I found out you can make your own and just buy them yourself. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I've got to find a reason to use this. So I was like, oh, I'll make it into a game night. Dominion itself, the game, had come out like 2 years before that in 2008. And it was 2010 at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna make my own game night. And so I printed off like a couple hundred scratch offs, invited 10 other people, and had the first Dominion night. It was at Mark Hirscher's house. I was living there at the time. He does not remember the fact that it happened at his house, which is hilarious to me. I bought all the prizes. They were from just dollar stores and stuff like that. They were nothing super fancy, but except for the fancy dice, I did have some cool D20s at the time that I thought were pretty awesome. And Dan Slotman agreed. He walked up to me. He's like, I need to win myself some fancy dice. And it was just kind of funny to have people going for certain prizes even that first year. And I kind of knew I had a hit on my hand with this night. And Jeremiah and Grant had the idea, well, wouldn't it be cool if like we brought all the prizes instead of you buying everything? Like you get way better prizes if everybody brought their own thing. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. So ever since then, that's what it's been after that first year. And yeah, there was only about 10 people there that first year. There was the only time that we had 5 people in the final game of the night, and it was just called the final game. 4 people got in randomly through the scratch-offs, and 1 person got in by having the most total scratch-offs won throughout the course of the night. And Mike Seipel won the very first Dominion night ever. And it was pretty great. And about a year and a half later, in 2011, I hosted the second one. And 20 people came. So it doubled in size. It was at my Fridley house at that point. People brought their own prizes. I collected that information leading up to it. It turned out to be a lot of work to get the scratch-off numbers and counts of all the scratch-offs and which prizes went with which scratch-off to work out. But it was worth it. It was way cooler. We had way better prizes, as you've seen over the years. Some of the prizes have gotten just ridiculous and awesome. But it was totally awesome and worth it. The second year, Carl won, actually, that year. And the third year, we had about 20 people again. But this time only at 3 tables. For whatever weird reason, people were just kind of not spreading out as much. So one of the tables I had 4 tables for the people, but only 3 of them ever got used. So we had a lot of 5 and 6 player games for some reason. Except for the final night of the final game of the night. Again, it was only 4 people again, and Mike once again won. So he won the first year and the third year. It was also the first year I had achievements. So on the sheet you could try to win certain or would do certain things for scratch offs, like be the first person to buy a province, for example. And then we got to 2013, which was the 4th Dominion night, and we had for this one 22 people. It was getting pretty close to the limit of what the house could handle. The final game was still just called the Final Games, but this year I had bought these bachelorette buttons. So instead of it being these little plastic cheap things I got from the dollar store, they were medals that said I'm a flirt, or I'm sexy, or I'm single, or whatever. And so the final game of the night, people were wearing those. And it was pretty awesome and hilarious. It was also the time I had the first hint of a puzzle, and there was trivia questions hidden around the house. And if you solved all the trivia questions, it would spell the word castle, because I was like, oh, Dominion, it's themed like a castle. And you got a couple extra scratch offs for doing that. The year after, and then Leo won that year, actually. It was the only year that people had the final game ended in a tie, in which they decided not to just use the tiebreaker rules. They wanted to play one more game, and so they played a heads-up one-on-one game, and Leo ended up winning that to claim the title of final game winner. Wasn't called the King's Melee yet by that point. That wouldn't happen until the next year. In 2014 is really when we hit the limit of the size of our house. We had 24 people at 6 tables, and we had to turn away about 3 people. Quinn had never been to Dominion Night before and came up to me and was like, I really, really want to go. Is there any way you can make it happen? Amanda found out that Quinn had asked that, and Amanda's like, you know what? I'll give up my spot. I won't play. Quinn can take my spot, and so Quinn was able to come as the kind of 25 people, even though Amanda only played 1 game that night. And he was able to come and has come every year since then. That year I had been laid off from Microsoft, so I had a lot of free time. So I decided to build a castle. And out of cardboard and some wood and these canvas gray sheets with canvas strips, and I painted them gray. And then the orange torches, those fan torches with orange lights all around the house. It was awesome and epic. And people were totally blown away when they saw it for the first time. Like, oh my gosh, you went all out on decorations and everything. And that was the first time I really had any theme to Dominion Night other than just play games and win prizes. I dressed up as the king. It was all themed around the king and queen welcome you to Dominion Night. And there was a puzzle hidden around the house, of riddles, kind of like escape room stuff where you had to solve different things with put this puzzle piece into this thing, or this whole line up with that thing, and then it would give you the next part of the clue. And when you were all said and done, if you said the phrase, the evidence to convict the dangerous saboteur is your crown, if you said that phrase to the queen, then she would give you a special Queen's Favor scratch-off, which had some of the more rare prizes of the night printed on those if you solved the overall riddle. And a lot of people did it, had a lot of fun, and going crazy of trying to solve all the different things they had done. Greg Cook won that night for the final game of the night. It was the first time it was called the King's Melee. And that year, because I was going all out on everything else, I had had a trophy company made these medals for me with the engraving on the back that said King's Melee Participant. And ever since then, I've been using that same medal design as well as the engravings on the back with which year you got to participate. And I've heard that some people still have kept them over the years and decided that those are kind of a cool thing to keep. Then the year after that, we were no longer constrained by space because we had the new house in Vandus Heights, and we had 33 people come that year. The theme was around a mystic. That was me, dressed in purple and black. And the mystic was awarded by the king the ability to plan the games that year and plan the riddle of the night. And so it was all around the aspect words of Dominion, the aspects being time, attack, curse, action, treasure, and then the secret one that I kept hidden until you found it later on in the puzzle, the victory one. You needed to figure out which word was associated with each aspect. And then once you did that, then you got entered into a cool prize for the night. I ended up liking the colors of purple and black so much that I have made Dominion Night themed purple and black ever since then. So every year since 2015, I've had purple Christmas lights and purple and black streamers and that sort of thing, because I just really like how it looks. And it's a cool thing that ties Dominion Night together. So that year, Carl Nelson won again. So he became the second person to win Dominion Night twice, which is awesome. In 2016, we had 39 people and used all 3 floors of the house. It was the year of the 7 empires. So the weeks leading up to Dominion Night, I had people fill out this quiz online that asked them, like, what's your personality type of these 4, describe your personality in these 4 words, or these 4 Dominion cards, and that sort of thing. And then at the end, it would tell you, your empire is the Empire of Snow, or the Empire of the Blaze, or the School of Lost Magics, or whatever. And then that night, depending upon what empire you got sorted into, you got to a different clue to the overall puzzle. Amazingly, which is kind of just crazy how this worked out with 39 people and everybody filling out the quiz, it perfectly worked out that people were evenly distributed into the seven empires. I did not actually have to do any finagling of the data to make up. You kind of, I guess you're in Empire of Snow, even though you didn't get that. Like, no, it just worked out. Personality-wise, I put a theme on each of the seven empires, and it just worked out perfectly, and it's awesome. I was worried that some of them were going to be super full and other ones weren't, and I'd have to fix it around, but I didn't have to, which was awesome. The theme that year was that the seven empires were trying to unite in peace and stay united in peace, but there was a saboteur that was trying to disrupt that peace. Each of the seven empires had a different color associated with it, not yellow though. Yellow was the saboteur color, and before Dominion Night started, I'd asked Leo to be my saboteur, and there was a hidden stash of yellow gems in the basement that he knew about, and he was spreading those yellow gems around the house, and people could turn them in to remove the corruption, and then all the puzzles were leading up to who the saboteur was, and you had to write it down. And so I had Leo wear a yellow shirt that night, and so that was like another tell that he was the one that was the saboteur, and so there was hints and stuff that it was him, and so it worked out really well, and people had a great time with it. And one of the highlights of the night for me was when Amelia came downstairs, had solved her puzzle, and she was part of the Empire of the Ocean, and the Empire of the Ocean's puzzle led you to a closet in the house which had a UV light in it and nothing to use it on. It's like, okay, I found the light and it said it's a special light and I have no idea what to use it on. And I'm like, I don't know. And then just at that exact moment, Mick happened to be walking by and he said, well, my thing says I need to find a special light, but I have no idea what that means. And they kind of looked at each other for a second like, wait, what did you just say? And then they quickly talked about it, figured it out, and ran upstairs, used the UV light on the back of Mick's paper for the artisans, I believe, was his empire. And then it has the code for a combination lock. And then they opened it up and like, oh, great. And everyone else is like, how'd you get that open? So it was pretty awesome. I really, really enjoyed the UV light, hidden invisible ink that I did that year. That was the first year not the first year, but it was Ashley won that year and had not won before. And it was awesome to have a new winner again because we had duplicate winners of both Mike and Carl. So it's good to have a new winner again. In 2017, we had 43 people. Which it got insane. We had 9 tables, 3 tables on each of the 3 floors of my house. And the whole theme of the night was the carnival came to the kingdom. So there was 4 carnival games around the house. Like a duck pond in the bathtub. Grant and I built a Plinko machine out of K'NEX. And then the K'NEX ball would fall through it, and then you would get a certain number of gems. So I used the plastic gems again like I had used for the empires. And the various color gems could be spent on various prizes and that sort of thing. It was actually the first year that not all 4 entries into the final game or the King's Melee were just random. You could actually earn your way in by spending green and yellow gems. And then the more green and yellow gems you spent, the better chance you had to get in. And so people could try to compete for that if they really wanted to play in the final game. And it worked out really well. The puzzle, however, for that night did not work well at all. It was themed around curses that were trying to affect the kingdom, 4 of them. And one of them most people solved that tried. The second one hardly anybody did, and the third and fourth one people didn't even find. So it ended up being a pretty big failure that year. And for a lot of different reasons, a lot of lessons learned. But one of the things I had done that year is that the riddles themselves were hidden inside black envelopes that were kind of hidden in plain sight. But it wasn't clear which envelope went with which of the curses. And a couple of the envelopes I had put a message inside that said, "This hint has been stolen," or like, "You've been sabotaged," or I forget what it said. But I didn't actually steal anything out of it. I just put that message in there to begin with. There was no missing message, but people saw that and they're like, "What? Like, how am I supposed to do it if messages are being stolen?" And so Didn't work, and it was fine. But the carnival was great. That part was awesome. I was dressed as a purple and black jester because like I said, fell in love with those colors for Dominion Night. Jenny said to me towards the end of the night, she had never been to Dominion Night before. And she came up to me and said, "This is legitimately the coolest party I have ever been to." And I'm like, "Thank you so much. That's so awesome to hear that you had such an awesome time." And Amanda made mini donuts of like 6 or 7 different kinds for the food that year because it was all carnival. We had actually borrowed a popcorn maker from a friend of ours. So we had all the carnival themed foods even. It was awesome. And Mike won that year for the 3rd time. So it's the same sort of people that always try to get into the King's Melee at the end of the year for the end of the night for those bragging rights, as well as the gift card to the Source Comics and Games is not a horrible thing either. But those bragging rights, and it's the same usual suspects of people that are trying to get to the final game. And Mike won for the 3rd time that year. So last year, for the puzzle, I decided to fast forward the storyline of Dominion Night about 30 years because the curses had won. I said that they're no longer, that the previous year no one solved the puzzles, so therefore the curses were victorious, and you were now in a kingdom that was overrun by curses for the last 30 or 40 years. So the puzzle was a map that you had to retrace the steps of the late Arthur Lindenshire and his journey to find the sigils that could break the curse on the kingdom. I brought back the UV light, and so the map had hidden lines on it that you had to use the UV light on. Even some of the scratch outs themselves had UV light, invisible ink on the back of them, which I thought was also very cool. Worked way better. A lot of people solved it because ultimately my goal at Dominion Night for the puzzles is to make them fun. But most people that try it will finish it, and it's great. And people had a really good time with it again. The big change also Dominion Night is I got rid of the scratch offs that said they wouldn't have Dominion card names on them anymore. Instead, they had just symbols from the various Dominion expansions. Leading up to Dominion Night, it's a ton of work to get all the scratch offs the right numbers of things. So if there's 5 of one kind of prize, then I need 5 of that kind of scratch off, and then maybe 20 of the one it pairs with, so enough people could win it, and all 5 of those prizes would be won. That's a lot of work to coordinate with all the different people, the prizes, and get it all set up. So I tried to scale that way back last year. And what I ended up doing instead is there were 8 prize boards on the wall, and if you found a scratch off that had, say, like a moon on it, or like the horse or something, then it just allowed you to sign the corresponding prize board, the horse board or the moon board, and then each individual board won one of the prizes. For the rest of the prizes, because that was only 8 prizes, the rest of them just had the name of the prize written right on the scratch-offs. So you would scratch it off, and you'd see the name of a prize, and you'd go take it, and you'd win that prize. I was really concerned that it was going to be taking away too much of the heart of Dominion Night, that people would miss the whole, I have to get this scratch off and trade for this and trade for that and get all those things. I was really concerned that would go away. But it turns out my fears were completely unfounded. For the vast majority of the people that I talked to about it afterwards, they loved it. They loved the fact that the prize was just written on there. It was super easy. It was great to trade the scratch-offs that had the symbols on them, to just trade for the ones you want to be entered in for the prize. And it was awesome. The King's Melee that year only had 1 entry that was random. The other 3, you could buy your way in by scratch-offs with certain symbols. And it ended up working out not as well as I would have liked. It ended up being towards the end of the night that if you had, say, 37 points worth of scratch-offs and somebody else had 39 points, well, then you just traded all those things away, but no benefit whatsoever. No chance to get in, whatever, because you were 2 points behind or 5 points behind for the scratch-offs. And I'm like, wow. It had the right effect where the people that cared enough about the King's Melee could play it, but not the right effect where people that didn't that just barely missed it, it could create some hard feelings. So that's going away this year. Instead, all 4 entries into the King's Melee will be drawn out of a bowl. And you just try to put your name in there as many times as you win scratch-offs that you want to get into that King's Melee. And that's it. So if you want to try to get in, you can put more entries into it if you want. But there will be no ability to like quick help somebody at the last second to get into the King's Melee. So it'll be fixed. And then last year, Leo won for the second time. So then we've had Mike, who's won 3 times, Carl, who's won twice, and Leo, who's also won twice, which is kind of crazy. We'll see who wins the 10th Dominion Night overall. But it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being somebody that has already won before, because it's those same set of people that really try to get into the King's Melee and try to compete for the most competition of the night. I've always tried to make Dominion Night a good balance between competition and yet friendliness and just anybody can win. And the randomness of the scratch-offs usually work out that way. That even if you've only won 1 scratch-off over the course of the night, maybe that's the ticket. Maybe that's the one that wins the best prize. And that is still the case. That if you win more scratch-offs, obviously, then you'll have more chances. But for the most part, anybody could win. Anyway, that's it. 2 nights away from the 10th Dominion Night. 10 years, which is just awesome. I think everybody that has come over the years and had such a good time, and you've given me such positive feedback over the years, it's what keeps me making it. It's what keeps me having such a good time scheduling it and putting all the work into it, is because I can see everybody just having an awesome time. It's a total labor of love. And I'm just really glad that it's been this successful. So thanks. See you in 2 days. And I'm looking forward to Dominion Night 2019. Talk to you soon.